Relationships can be a real pain in the neck. Get ready for relationship advice with a bite, here on Vampire Princess Problems.
Hi everyone, I'm your Vampire Princess girlfriend, and you're listening to the Vampire Princess podcast. This is going to be a podcast for very pretty people, and the nature of this podcast is going to talk about relationships, dating, and romance. So, my name is Vanessa, and I'm a Gen Z, and I live in America.
And I'm Seth. I'm a millennial, allegedly, and I live in the United Kingdom.
And we're going to start off this podcast with letting everyone know what we're drinking. Today I'm going to be drinking strawberry milk during this podcast.
And I'm just drinking some blackcurrant cordial. Wish I was drinking a beer, but can't have everything.
So you guys comment down below what you're drinking while you're listening to this, or what you're up to while you're listening to this. In a world full of swipe right romances, can a first date still be something magical?
Well, it's a very good question.
So do you think that it's harder, dating now that everything's on dating apps, whereas maybe before when you were dating, when you were younger, it was primarily in person?
I think I'm slightly mixed on it, because in some ways, when you think about the oversaturation of the swipe right romances and everything sort of almost fully on display right from the get-go, the idea of actually taking the time to have a first date and to go out for something a bit more special, I think that is, because it's more of a rarity, that can potentially present itself as something a bit more magical, perhaps. It's certainly a lot more complicated than just sort of swiping left or right depending on your preference. The idea of taking the time to go out and talk to somebody. So I feel that there's a lot of potential there. And with the right person, I think it really can be something magical.
When you're going on a first date, would you rather have the information of the person that their profile would provide, or would you rather go on a blind date with someone that you know nothing about?
Ooh, I think I would like to be perhaps armed with a little bit of information ahead of time. Maybe just the basics, because I think there's a certain amount, if you know that there are none of the major deal breakers, for example, or at least nothing that's presented itself, I think it's a lot easier to kind of get comfortable when you know that somebody's going to be on the same page. That being said, blind dating does have its charm. I've been set up before by some friends, actually, where they sort of said, this is well, just for the name of the person, I'll say Jess, although names are
I
not
totally
necessarily.
forgot to mention to all the listeners that since we're going to be talking about dating and romance, we're going to talk about some of our previous relationships or just situations that we've been in. So for that purpose, we're going to not use their real name or likeness. We'll change some details, so everything is going to be completely anonymous.
Absolutely. And so I got set up with somebody called Jess. Now, it didn't work out because there were certain deal breakers, but if it was something where, it happened to have worked out, then it could have been fantastic. It's just that we wanted different things out of life. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in approaching a romantic relationship potentially and then finding, it's not quite what I was hoping for, and then just deciding to back off. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as everybody sort of talks to each other and is happy about it and nobody kicks off like a lunatic. Then I think we're all good. It's so I've not been on a successful blind date, but I would like to think that it's possible.
Yeah, I've never been on a blind date at all myself, but I do think there's something more honest about it, because let's just say, for example, if you match with a guy and he's he owns a yacht and like whatever, he has like all this great stuff, and then you meet him in person and the connection might not be that great, but in the back of your mind you're like, oh, he has like all these other things or whatever I'm looking for, I know he's gonna offer it to me. So it's like you're trying to make it work like for those reasons already, where if it's like a blind date, it's just like our initial chemistry, like our initial vibe, and like that's it.
Hmm. That's it. And in fact, you touched on something very interesting there, which was about, you're trying to sort of make it work for the sake of the things that you like. If you perhaps if you're focusing more on the things that that person has, and a list of criteria, it's almost like you're interviewing for a job role,
Yeah.
whereas romance isn't always about that side of things. um I mean, I am aware that some people do marry for status, money, power, um have arranged marriages for family purposes and things like that, and all those things are fine as long as everybody's a consenting adult. It's just, for me, I really need that connection. That's the way I am. And so for me, it would have to be something where I don't care if the other person's poor and I'm the one buying dinner every time, because doing stuff like that's part of the small gifts, that you can give to a person. Is okay, well, um we may not necessarily have a huge amount at the moment, but I can still buy you dinner. That's gonna be romantic, right?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I also think it's hard, almost in a way, to not like feel like you're in an interview because you are trying to show like the good things about you. I mean, it's good to be like vulnerable and show the bad things too, but I mean, ultimately, if you're trying to woo this person, you're gonna say all the nice stuff about yourself as well, but you don't want it to feel like too informal.
Hmm. Actually, yeah, that's a fair point. It is there's still definitely a certain amount of job interview to it. I certainly don't like leading with the bad stuff about me. Um, I generally tend to try and avoid bringing it up. So those things, some people are like, um, you can find out at a later point, whether there's bad stuff. Like, I've heard allegations that I snore. Apparently, that's a bad thing. But I've not heard it, so I choose to remember that it doesn't happen.
Oh, so you
Uh,
would tell someone that you didn't snore.
well, I would just ignore the subject and hope that in my ignorance it goes away.
And hope they don't ask.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, if somebody did ask, I'd probably be honest. I don't like being dishonest about anything of that nature,
True.
because the way I see it is, if it's genuinely a deal breaker for them, then trying to deceive them, A, wouldn't feel right, and B, it's only going to lead to problems down the line. Um,
That is
and
so true because it's like when you're in like a job interview, like sometimes like people can encourage you to like say you're a little better than you are so you get the job, but it's like you definitely don't want to do that when you're on your first date because they're going to look at it like, wow, if you lied about something so small and simple, like what else are you willing to lie about? Like it's one lie already.
That's it. And plus, snoring is something that only happens when you're asleep. And so, you're completely vulnerable then. Imagine basically going on a first date and then you get stabbed to death in your sleep because you snored. That would just be awful.
That's the other thing is, first dates like mean totally different things to different people. Like there's no like one way. I feel like that's just understood like which way this date is going to go. Like it can go to where we're going to like continue, or it can go to where like I'm just actually going to block you as soon as I leave this building.
Yeah. Sort of, there's a sort of, I don't know, the middle ground between completely just deleting the person from your life and heading pretty much straight from the sack from the get go. Like there's a balance between those two things. It's
Yeah.
about finding the right one. Not that some people are quite happy with just heading straight to bed. It's just I like to think there's something there first.
Yeah. And that could be the magical part, but I don't think it's like the magical part that we're talking about.
Mm, that's it. Yeah, there's some magic. It's just, slightly slightly different from where we're aiming at first.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to ask you like the age old question, like what is the perfect first date, or where would you take someone on your first date if you were trying to be like, I want to make this absolutely perfect for them?
Okay. Right. I mean, my immediate first thought was like having a proper dinner date.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously it'd have to be something that the other person would like, but my first thought was Italian, because they've pretty much got the, as cheesy as it is, the language of love pretty much, you know, sorted and settled. It's always a good thing, having some lovely Italian food with a nice bottle or two of red wine. Um, yeah, for me, it really sort of speaks well, because it's kind of the way that dates in Italian restaurants go. It seems to be there's a lot of talking because there's a lot of downtime, especially if you go on a night where it's not too busy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know restaurants that tend to be very full. There's something very production line about it, and you kind of get everything fairly quickly, or as quickly as they can manage it. Whereas if it's on a not so busy night, there's a bit more of a chance to talk between courses. Enjoy the appetizers as much as the mains and things like that. Um, and so I
Honestly,
think it's
I
good.
feel like an Italian restaurant is like so romantic. That's like when I imagine in my head like, oh, like a perfect first date like in a movie or something, I would think about like two people in New York. They're going to an Italian restaurant like with a white
Mhm.
tablecloth and they have red wine and they're like talking over the bread and stuff. That's just like the image that like pops in my mind. Like it's candle lit. It's people are talking in the background, but they're not talking too soft, but they're not talking too loud.
That's it. There's something remarkably visual about that
Hmm.
whole experience, and there's the suit and the dress, or maybe you're dressing down a little bit from that. But overall, I think if I was truly going to be interested in somebody, I'd want to at least dress up a little bit. I'd maybe not a full suit and tie, but certainly a nice shirt.
That's
Um,
true, because that's another thing that you see in like romance movies and stuff like that. They're always like dress up a little bit in like a cocktail dress or like have on like something a little more formal than I feel like maybe most people in like actual like real life do on a very first date. People probably try to go like a little more casual.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't have a tuxedo and bow tie and cummerbund, but I certainly, I think, just something like a nice shirt, something not as casual but also not as formal. Making that middle ground, I think, is the best way. Um, and Plus, one thing the fashion industry doesn't do particularly well, there isn't as much variety in terms of menswear. So, whilst you probably would have a dress for every occasion,
Hmm.
ranging from casual to formal. We basically, the formal wear of men is either on or it's off. It's either a formal piece of attire or it's not. And sometimes we have to mix and match outfits that don't really go together to try and straddle that line. So I'd be wearing a smart shirt and jeans.
Yeah, it's like for me personally, like I'd much rather like if I was trying to meet someone and make a good impression, I'd rather have like my hair done and my makeup done and like kind of look nice. I mean, like it could be nice to go on like a hike, but if we're going on a hike, I'm just gonna like sweat my makeup off. Like it's gonna be like a bad situation for me. Like I'm just gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm like not looking my best right now. We're all sweaty from the hike and everything. So I feel like that's maybe something for me. I would want to do like indoors.
That's it. And honestly, when people sort of talk about living your best life, it doesn't have to involve hiking. Um, not
Like
at all.
uh, then on a second date or a third date, I'd be like, okay, whatever. He's seen me. Now he's seen me like as my top like 10 look. I can see me like now with no makeup on. It's fine.
Honestly, if I had a hiking date, it would be half an hour in, and I'd look like a tomato. Um, like I'd be bright red, out of breath, gasping on the floor. Like, why did I agree to this? This is, like, I mean, and that's without adding all the injuries that I've accumulated over the years. I mean, my knee is busted. There's no way I'm going on a hiking date. I have to apologise in advance to anybody that wants to drag me out there. Um,
That is
yeah.
a really good point because it's like you want the first date to at least be somewhat tailored, and it does depend on how long you've known the person. Like if you meet them like at an event on Thursday and then you agree to go out on a date that Saturday, like you're not going to have as much time maybe to like get to know them as you would, this is my friend that I've known for 6 months now, and I know a lot of stuff about them, so you have a better chance of picking like a good first date. But yeah, I mean, to an extent, it has to be tailored to that person because even like you said, if someone asks you out on hiking, I mean, that might sound like a really cute and amazing date for some people, but it's like you gotta know your audience to an extent.
Well, that's it. I remember seeing actually it was a quite good picture. It was I think it was on Facebook, and it was basically from a couple, and basically it was uh, they were at work, and she suggested let's go on a hike. You know, who wants to come along? And only one person did. This one guy who was really shy and quiet guy that's sort of in the back of the office, and um, he was the only person to turn up. Um, and they really hit it off, and
Oh,
they got married.
oh wow, that is so cute.
I know it's like, so I'm not
That's
completely.
magic. That is like a magical first date. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's just like
Hmm,
sometimes the first date just goes so well, and it's just like you just know right then and there. Like it's crazy to think because if you are dating and you're just like, I might have a date this week, 2 weeks from now, a week from now, like whatever your dating schedule is, like after a while, you kind of get like, do I really like do I really care what this person's favorite color is? Like, you're not really all that interested in dating, even like just your mindset going on the date. But it's like, you never know. It could really actually just be your person.
that's it. And this was his situation. It wasn't even officially a date until it was. It was just, they were just going for a hike. They just happened to find out they liked each other. And so there's that sort of difference between if you declare something a date, like, if you're sort of formally asking somebody for dinner, like, it's because I've had that before where I've actually asked somebody out, like, properly formally. I don't know what was possessing me at the time. I just kind of said, um, I said, look, would you like to go to dinner with me? Just
Aw.
pretty much in those exact words, and let's just say it didn't always work out the way that I'd hoped, but it, you live and you learn. I just thought, I'm gonna just try and say it outright, be formal about it, and just make it clear what it is that I'm asking.
That is so true. And I would even say, even if it doesn't sound like quite as like, I don't know, like so much romance and everything, like an Italian restaurant, like if you don't know the person that well and you're just kind of like shooting a like shot in the dark here that maybe they like me back, um, maybe I would recommend somewhere more like a cafe at that point because it's like if it gets to be a bit awkward or it's not going well, it's a bit easier to leave because you've already paid your tab when you've entered. So you could just take your coffee at that point and just kind of exit the date a little bit early. Whereas, like, if you're having a dinner, it's like the food, the wine, the desserts, like, it's kind of a longer, like, endeavor.
That's it. Yeah, you sort of, it's a bit difficult to make an exit when you're waiting for the check. Um, Whereas, yeah, if it's a nice little, and a lovely little coffee shop is always going to have its own charm, isn't it? It's something that, because you can find a nice quiet corner, preferably, and just talk it out, everything that you're feeling at the time. If it is something that you're interested in as a potential romance, you can be as open about that as you need to be in that setting, and because it's a coffee shop, it's a place of conversation, so it just feels more natural to talk about these things. And sometimes that's all you need. You don't always need that formal romanticism. Sometimes just the quiet, quaint charm, especially when it's like autumn or something like that, and there's usually a thematic, like
Mhm.
seasonal drinks and the decor.
That's true, and there's like an instant icebreaker right away because you instantly have something to talk about, which is their coffee order.
Mm, absolutely. Like, if they're going for something that has like lots and lots of syllables in it, like, modern iced coffee with this, that, and the other attached to it, you know, something Achino and frappe and all the rest of it. You,
Those
you
are the
probably
best
understand these more.
kinds. Those are the best kinds.
Yeah, I can't pronounce what their order is, so I'm probably going to absolutely butcher the name. But I'll be like, "How's your drink that you've got there?" And I'll be like, "Okay, so firstly, what's in it, and why has it got so many syllables in its name?"
Yeah, so it gives the space to kind of like open up and talk to each other about that and things they like, flavors they like, what they typically order.
Mm.
Because if you do end up ever staying the night with that person, then you can always get them that order the morning after to be like really cute.
Oh yeah, that is a cute thing. I like the idea of that. Yeah, if it does go that way, you can surprise them with a right. I've got your order,
I
and
mean, it's just
hopefully,
always good to have someone's coffee order because it's even if it's just something like a simple like thank you or anything, it's like the right like type of gift for like a small gesture.
mm, that's it. And also, if it's somebody that's like got a different order every time, um, you might find that it's trying to guess which one they're after can be quite a thing. Make a game out of it or
What
something like
what
that.
about you? Are you that person you get something different every time or do you just like you go to one place, you get one thing on the menu just like that every single time, like never change it up?
Um, I do sometimes change it up, but I tend to be fairly clear as to what I'm after. If I'm going to a cafe, I tend to have the latte. Sometimes,
You're
you
just
know,
very simple. I like it. Straight and to the point. That's just so simple.
yeah, that's it. I mean, sometimes I'll change it up a bit. Like if I know I'm going to be there for only a short amount of time, I'll make it a flat white instead. Um, and if I've really got a fair amount of time, I might start adding a few bits and bobs to it. You know. Also,
Gotcha.
if I need to wake up, an extra shot always helps.
True. So, for deal breakers in a relationship, do you talk about those on a first date? I know we touched on it earlier where you were saying it might be a deal breaker for snoring, but do you actually disclose like straight up deal breakers? Like, do you get right into the negatives with it?
Yes. I tend to do the whole sort of sandwiching them in between two pieces of good news, um, because I find that you want to, start positive and end positive. But there is generally a section during the first date that I like to get it discussed because it saves everybody a load of hassle. Especially if some of your deal breakers are, say, political or things that they want for their future.
Mm-hmm.
Classic example: me, I don't want kids. I can't have them. It's not a lifestyle that I am particularly thinking is going to be my area. And so, if somebody really wants kids, then I'm probably a deal breaker for them because that's probably a deal breaker is that I can't have them and I'm not interested in being a parent. So with that out of the way, we can still be friends maybe, but romance is probably off the table because we're going to want different things out of life. And I think getting that sorted on the first date is an important thing. There's no reason why the date has to end there. You can say, okay, it's not going to go romantically, but we're here, we're dressed up, the pasta's good, the wine's good. Let's just make a thing out of it. Let's enjoy a nice evening anyway, and we can still do that. And some people might want to cut it short. Then that's entirely up to them. But
I think
why not?
that's a very like sweet and generous offer. Like even if the date wasn't going well on like reasons of like a deal breaker, I mean maybe you guys just didn't maybe you guys just realized together that you just don't mutually click. I mean, that's a nice generous thing to offer because I think it makes the other party like feel a bit more comfortable about like being there with you and not wanting to like waste your time or vice versa.
That's it. Because you can always make a friend out of it. And you always put it down to, okay, it might not work out for us, but we could always treat this as practice,
Yeah.
if nothing else.
Nothing else, we
Um,
got out of the house on a Thursday night, okay? Sometimes that's all you need.
that's it. Yeah. The ability to escape your surroundings. I mean, do you have any deal breakers of your own that you might think would be, like, say, worth bringing up on a first date?
um, I don't know anything that would like just like come to a halt on the first date that would be like an absolute deal breaker. I would probably preference like not smoking like cigarettes for me, but I don't know if it would necessarily be like if everything else was like perfect about this person, but they just smoke cigarettes, I'd maybe give it consideration. So I guess the only thing that would be like a definite absolute no is if they don't like dogs because I have two dogs and they're mine. They're always going to be living with me, so there's like no way I would ever get rid of my dogs or anything like that. So if
No,
you're allergic to
absolutely.
dogs, like, well, that's just pretty much it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the dogs were there first. They're your companions in this life already. It would be a horrible person to try and push the dogs out of the way for their gain. So
And I feel like
honestly,
if they were my person, they could at least try some Benadryl. No, I'm kidding. But at least make an effort not to be allergic. Be like, can we take any sort of medicine? Like, can we talk to your doctor? Like, do you need some ointment? Like, what can we do?
yeah, that's it. So because if they're the right person, they would probably want to find a way in which it'll work out. Um, I mean, as far as I'm aware, I don't necessarily have any allergies. But if I was allergic to cats, for example, fact is I still like cats, so
Mm-hmm.
I'd still want to try and find a way of being a cat owner someday if
True.
the option was available. And that's just for me. That's not even related to dating necessarily. Um, but I think things like that are very important. You've got to accept that the person's pets are their family first. They were there before you. If you're trying to get with them, you can't shove them aside. They're there, and it's a package deal.
Yeah, and honestly, like now that we've talked about it, I don't know if I would have like ever brought it up on a first date before because I'm not gonna lie, like kind of just like my general assumption is that like pretty much everyone's like okay with dogs, but that's really not always the case.
No, some people aren't, and sometimes that's a legitimate thing. I mean, if it's a severe allergy,
Mm-hmm.
if they've got a severe phobia, like if they were, I don't know, attacked by a dog as a kid, and they might have an absolute
Mm-hmm.
phobia of them, which understandable. It's like they might be terrified, and that's not necessarily something you can change.
Right.
Um, it is just the the way it is sometimes for people, and um, it's unfortunate because we're adding to an ever growing list of reasons why some people might not be together necessarily, um, where everything else might work out. Um,
I do think it's beneficial too to like go ahead and just kind of air out the absolute deal breakers because let's just say like for me like I just went under the assumption like that this person liked dogs, but then later down the road whenever our relationship was developing or Phillips were developing, like if they didn't know that like that was one of my deal breakers and they didn't like dogs or had an allergy or whatever, like that was something that could have been completely avoided by just being honest, like, and open on the first day and being vulnerable.
That's it, exactly. It's yeah, just being honest from the get-go, really important, really helpful.
I'm like
I think.
giggling because we're talking about like my dogs and stuff, and I literally hear mine howling in the background right now.
Oh dear. Yeah, the I, yeah, I remember. Well, in the setup to this, for those of you who aren't, in the know, I was hearing the dogs in the background, and I was sort of thinking, like, I wonder if they're going to come on the show.
He's pretty mouthy. He could probably talk a lot.
Absolutely. One day, I fully intend to meet him.
Yeah. Oh, and so one other thing I did want to talk about with you is what are like you think some good like manners to have on a first date? Like, do you think there's a right and wrong way to act?
I think so. There's a certain amount of etiquette. Like I know that some people are a particular way. Like some people are naturally they swear a lot. They curse like a sailor. And other people are quite sort of shy and reserved. I think there's a, a sort of etiquette for these things where it's not like asking somebody to change who they are or anything. It's just a certain kind of, you know, if somebody's perhaps a little crass on the first date, it can sour the mood a little bit, especially if you're trying to be formal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then if somebody is like that, then maybe going to an Italian's not always going to be the first choice. They're probably more interested in something else, perhaps. Um, Definitely treating the staff correctly. I find that would be a great thing if somebody's rude to the waiting staff or the kitchen staff. I really can't stand that behaviour myself personally. It's something that, as somebody that used to work in a kitchen in a restaurant, I've had many kitchen jobs, in fact. If somebody's rude to the staff, that is a massive deal breaker for me in and of itself.
Oh, absolutely. For me as well. I mean, that's such a big indicator of like how they just treat people out in the world. Like if they were just especially rude to like the staff, that would just be like an absolute no-go for me.
Mm. Yeah, I've had to do it when I was just hanging around with friends, and I had a friend who was a bit rude to somebody, and I pulled him up on it. I was like, "Look, dude, what are you doing? They're just asking the question because that's their job to ask the question. You don't need to be sarcastic about it." And I'll do that for common friendships, let alone a romantic date. Where if somebody's rude, I'll just be like, I can't deal with somebody being rude to the. What's the phrase? Don't bite the hand that feeds.
Mm-hmm.
If it would be like, why would you do that to somebody that's literally serving you your food?
You
Like,
know, on a similar but much smaller level, like it's not as a big of a deal. But one thing for me that like I really can't stand is when someone always has like something negative to say about the food. Like it's okay to not like everything, but if you're like, "Oh, this is too salty," or "This is too much," or "I don't like this," I'm just kind of like, "Wow, like this person's negative attitude is like not all that pleasant to be around. Like I don't want to be around this more."
hmm, yeah, sometimes there are legitimate concerns with the food, or it's not to your taste, or it's
Mhm.
something new that you thought you'd try that you didn't know what it was going to be like, and it turns out it's not to your flavour palette. Okay, fair enough. So don't moan about the food the whole time, though.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
accept that this is sometimes it's a you problem. And this is the thing that I will confess took me far too much of my life to get. Um, is Not everything is rubbish just because you don't like it. That just
Right.
means you don't like it. It's like, if they genuinely, if they did mess it up and they served me like a pizza which is way too burned, for example, I'd say to them, could I get one that's a little less well done? As a phrase we used to have when I was working in the kitchen, it's if it's brown, it's cooked. If it's black, it's fucked. Um, and so, going by that principle, but yeah, if it's somebody that feels the need to constantly make cutting remarks about things in a negative fashion, it's like, okay, it was funny the first few times, but
I
let's rein it
like
in.
me personally, I feel like I could just never say anything negative to the staff at all. Whereas like if I ordered like spaghetti and then they brought me like Alfredo, I'd be like, "Thank you so much. Like I really needed this Alfredo. Like you just knew something I didn't know, which is that I needed to have the Alfredo tonight and not the spaghetti that I ordered." Like I'm not being sarcastic. Like I would just totally be like, "You know what? This is my order and I'm going to eat it and be happy." Like I wouldn't even speak up and say anything.
Hmm. Yeah, just gotta hope that the Alfredo isn't too much, more expensive, just in case you end up eating something that was actually meant for the other table. It turns out we then get charged.
Oh, true. Oh, and speaking of the prices of the menu, so how do you feel about like who should pay for the first date?
um, Now that's a tricky question because I've had occasions where it's been clearly understood that I'm the person with more money. And there's other occasions when it's been understood that I'm very much not. Generally, the person asking for the date, is normally in a position to sort of take the lead on it. But it's a case where I think there's no problem with going Dutch. You just got to ask. It should be discussed in advance. So like for example, if somebody was asking, do you want to go for dinner? Do you want to go this place? I would, and if it's somewhere that I know is just ridiculously expensive, I'd have to say, okay, we're going Dutch on this one, just so I make sure I get the cash out in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I don't want somebody to sort of say, oh yeah, you're buying, it's your date, you're buying, and then they also want me to go to somewhere which is far in excess of my budget. Because like the thing about dates is that some people, I know, they want to live the high life, but at the same time you want longevity with the high life. And if you go for the most expensive place, that's not always going to be very long lived. So there's got to be an amount of sensibility with it, and they've got to accept that asking to go Dutch is not a negative, because sometimes somebody can't afford to buy two people's very, very expensive meals.
I totally agree with that, but I will just say, like, for me, like, I mean, I have princess in my name, literally. So, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna say straight up, I expect the other person to pay for the date. But, like, that being said, I don't like, we can just go to, like, Chili's, like, it's fine. Like, I don't know what Chili's, like, equivalent would be like over there, but, like, you guys have TGIFs, right?
Um, oh,
TGI
yeah,
Fridays?
yeah, TGI,
Yeah,
yeah.
like we could just go to like a simple like sit down chain. Like it doesn't have to be fancy. And like when I go out, like I'm not gonna order like the most expensive thing on the menu or like the most expensive wine. Like I'm gonna be considerate of their budget. Like just because they're paying for me, I'm not gonna take advantage of that. It's just, I mean, I appreciate the fact that they took me out.
Yeah, for sure. And, like I say, sometimes it can be a case of, okay, well, we really want to find out what this expensive place is like. We're going to have to split the bill on that one because it's the only way we can afford it. Sometimes you just have to chip in equally for it. But yeah, like if I'm asking somebody on a date, I don't mind paying for the date. It's just I certainly wouldn't want to be, like paying out several hundred, because then also you got to consider tips on top of that and things like that. I know that tipping culture is more of a thing over there than it is here, but if the staff do a good job, they, I quite often give them a little something. So
Oh,
um,
definitely. Like I don't tip under like 20 to 25% like anywhere I go, like even to the nail salon, like anywhere where like have a tipping service, like I always tip like pretty high, if not higher than that.
mm, yeah, understandable. And here it tends to be less, but then you don't always tip for everything here. It tends to be, restaurants. Yes, there's a certain amount where restaurants. Like, if the service is exceptional, we tend to go up to about 20%, but we tend to stick with about 10 if it's average, for catering and things like that. So yeah, different cultures, but different ways of looking at things. But I think honestly, it's very interesting to see the differences. Obviously, yeah, you want to be romanced, you want them to buy for you, and that's fair enough.
Well, hey, like even if they didn't have like let's say they don't have that much money, like we can just go to McDonald's and get McChickens and get cheeseburgers. Like that's totally fine with me. Like it doesn't matter like what like level the restaurant is. I mean, it would just be the act of like paying for it. And if they can just pay for the dollar menu, that's fine with me.
Oh, that's fair then. Yeah. Yeah, Mackie D's, is always a
McDonald's is always a fun date to go on.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's usually accompanied by like going to the park or just like I don't know, just stuff that makes you feel young again.
Like Crazy Golf.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy Golf is like mini golf.
Yeah, mini golf. Yeah.
Crazy Golf is so funny.
Yeah, just another naming convention difference there, but yeah, it's quite fun. Just the idea of going on a date to a mini golf place and just being like, you know what, let's just do something silly.
I will say, at least here, I think mini golf is like kind of low key expensive, like sometimes like $40 a person. But yes, I love that date. Yeah, I know it's crazy, but because I'm so competitive. Like, I'm a competitive person by nature, so as soon as I get in there, I'm just like, you are going down. Like, it's actually on. I'm like, forget your favorite color, forget your zodiac sign. Like, I'm here to win.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, sort of. Okay, we're dressed up for a nice romantic date, but first I'm gonna kick your ass.
We can talk after I win. Once I win, then we can go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger.
Yeah, see, I want to be competitive, but unfortunately I'm really bad at it, so I can't. I have to pretend I'm not competitive because I'm just terrible at Crazy Golf.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I would end up getting soundly beaten, but I could just treat that as a thing. The loser has to pay for the dinner afterwards.
What about a weird date, like a date where it's something you wouldn't necessarily want to go on, like not something you couldn't do like physically, but just like something that's not really your interest at all?
Trying to think now what that would be like, because generally speaking, if I'm just used to speaking my mind, if it's something I'm not interested in, I'm just like, no, sorry, it's not my thing.
You would just say no immediately to the date.
Generally, I mean, the thing is, if it's for a date and if it's just something that the other person really genuinely is interested in, maybe. Like, I don't know. I don't really know sort of examples of that. What I would use. I mean, can you think of some examples, perhaps, and I'll have a think.
Well, I was thinking in my mind like something like bowling, but it could just be like anything like super like weird or random, like riding dirt bikes or something, just something that you're like not really interested into.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, bowling I do like, I'll admit, so I would actually go on a bowling date for sure. But yeah, okay, so mini bikes and quad bikes and bit of off roading and fun stuff like that. Yeah, that kind of thing, not really my thing, but for the right person, I would consider it. I wouldn't say no straight away. I think I could go on it.
I would lean towards go as long as it wasn't something like weird, weird. Like I don't know about going to like an occult meeting or something, but like if it was just something that's maybe something that I don't normally do, like let's say like going to a stand-up show. Like I love comedy, but I've just never been to one. Like I would be like, you know what, I've never really had that much interest, but I mean I could go and love it, so I'm just gonna give it a try.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because I've never been to stand up myself actually, and it's not something I really would have thought of. But you know what, that could actually be a thing that I'd go to. Well, I wouldn't do something like, for example, like
Ballet.
bungee jumping or ballet. It's not really my thing, and like if I was to, I'm not the kind of person that does something really macho to try and impress somebody. So I'm not gonna jump off a bridge with a rope tied around me just to try and impress somebody. Um, it's there are things that I won't do, but if it's something like go to a show, maybe the theatre's not really my thing, but why not? I'll go to a show with somebody. Sounds fun. Um, yeah, it depends on the degree of how weird it is, um, how energetic it is as well.
Like
But
one time I accompanied someone to like a blues show, which is like obviously like not the type of music that we're into. It was something like completely different and I'm not all that familiar with, but I went to it and it was just like the vibe was so good. Like everyone was feeling the music, everyone was like so happy. Like it was just like actually so much fun. I enjoyed it a lot and I would have like never like went to that on my own.
it does sound quite nice, and it sounds like something where okay, it's a different type of music, but at least you can probably dance to it. I mean,
Mm.
I couldn't. I've got two left feet and my legs don't work properly. But I think it's something that I wish I could dance if I just get on and just because you could sort of slow dance to it, I guess
So I
maybe.
take it that you wouldn't want to go like dancing, like go clubbing on a date.
Not really my thing. I could do the whole thing that blokes tend to do, where they just kind of stand there with their drink and the girl dances around them. You know,
It's
and
not
sort of.
really my thing either. I like no, I because for me, I can barely stay up that late.
Mm.
I'm like I have a bedtime at this point, so I mean, I'm not typically out all that late anymore.
No, I mean my work hours are all over the place, so I tend to not know when I'm going to have the opportunity to actually go out to something like that. My sleep cycle is busted, so at the best of times, I'm going to be sitting there yawning if it's too late out.
Like in
I'm
college,
getting old.
like me and my friends were out until like 2, 3 a.m. at parties, like easily. Like that was just
Yeah,
like normal for us. But now I'm just like, if you asked me to stay up till 3 a.m., I would be like, I would need like 14 days more rest after that. Like,
that's it. We are getting old ahead of our time. That's the problem. I'm finding that because honestly, yeah, I've pulled so many all nighters in my time. I've stayed up drinking and God knows what. And nowadays, if somebody even suggests that we might be out by midnight, my joints start to hurt. So, you know,
it's like,
yeah,
ooh, I got the tired sleepies at like 9 p.m.
I'm gonna need some more energy drinks for this. Like,
Yeah, I
honestly.
don't know if I would have it in me, but I will say, like, I don't think I ever want to get to the point where I'd ever like never ever go. Like maybe like once every 5 years, like just to get back out there again, see what all the kids are up to, just like have a good time. Because I don't feel like it's all that horrible of a thing. It's just not a lifestyle for me.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind going out to some of the rock and metal clubs every now and then. Just they'd probably have to be ones that I've not been to before because I don't really want to sort of go to the ones I'm too familiar with. Whilst I'm so different from how I used to be when I went out to them, but somewhere
Mm-hmm.
new and exciting, that'd be quite fun. Just let's see what's out there to explore, and who knows? Like going on a date to a metal club sounds amazing to me personally, but um, that's just one of those sort of little. It would feel a bit like a side quest.
Yeah, because I do think it would be a lot of fun, but only like if it's one of those things where you've known this person before. You didn't just
Yeah.
meet them like 2 days ago, because there's not going to be a lot of talking going on. But Yeah.
No, that's it. Lots of head banging, not so much talking.
I
Um,
feel like
um,
one day I'm like gonna be like 45 years old and I'm just gonna be like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to the club one more time and just show everyone that I've still got
I'm
it.
I'm disturbingly close to that age at this point, and I'm just sort of thinking, yeah, if I go to a club one last time, and I'm going to be there, I'm going to be like, my back hurts, my feet hurt, my entire body at this stage is just protesting at the fact that I'm here.
And we're gonna get to the bar and we're gonna be the ones that are like, can we get the pretzels? Can we get the cheese cubes? Can we get all the bar snacks over here? The peanuts, like everything stat. Like
That's it. I want enough. I want enough energy drinks that I'm going to be able to use the force, and just in the hope that I'll actually be able to survive until close.
yeah, it's
See if I
like
can actually
we'll
make
take the
it.
fried cheese sticks, like we'll take one
Mhm.
of everything. We're hungry when we're drunk.
Yeah, I definitely become a hungry drunk. I tell you what, it's one of those where having also there's the dates where you stay in, you just like build a little fort out of pillows and duvets and things like that, and
Get
cushions and stuff.
takeout.
Get takeout, or you cook a pizza at home, or you get a load of bowls out and you put snacks in them all, and you just build yourself a little fortress of nibbles, um, and then you get the drinks out and stuff, and you just show, like, you take turns to show each other some TV show or anime or film or whatever that you've not seen, that the other person's not seen, so you can introduce each other to the stuff that makes you tick. That's just that sounds cool as well. Not as a first date. As a first date, I think I prefer to go out somewhere. But once you've had that first date, you can have stay in
Mhm.
dates and be like, yeah, let's stay in and order a pizza. And
I think that date specifically needs Thai food, like takeaway, like delivery to the house. Like, I think that's what that date needs. But yeah, I see what you mean. Like, 3 or 4 dates in, like, if everything's going well, I think that's like a really cute date.
that sounds good. Yeah, a bit of Thai food. Thai green curry is one of my favourite foods of all time. So definitely feeling that one.
Yes. I feel like that is just like the perfect thing. And if it's like raining outside, if you can help it, like that just really adds to the vibe. Just stay
That's
inside
it.
and light candles.
Yeah, yeah. A few candles, get the ambience going. It's much easier to control the ambience in your own environment.
Right.
Just just get, you got to make sure that you've got enough time for an Amazon delivery to get there, just in case you find that your candles are the wrong color or whatever. But it'll work.
So, as far as like first dates go, do you have any like pro tips on them? Like things that you can do that could just win you some instant like brownie points?
Hmm. I'm far from an expert at this, but I certainly think it's just mindfulness of the things you're saying, and the way you're saying them is always sort of helpful. I do think the idea of turning up with some flowers or a little gift, or trinket or something that you can you know get somebody, or just something nice, as long as you've done enough either research to say that the person's going to like it, or generally flowers for a first date tends to be a nice maneuver. Just don't go overboard with the bouquet, because you still got to find a place to sit down and eat. um
I do think for
completely
me,
overwhelming.
like, I would like to get like flowers on the first date, definitely. And then if I'm seeing someone, like we go on like our second date or something, and things are going well, I will bring them like a little something, like chocolates or flowers, or like even a case of beer, because I know that like men don't typically get it as like often as girls do, just like a little small gift. So I don't bring it on the first date because I want the first date to be almost like a showcase to me of like how they're gonna treat me in the relationship. You know, that's kind of why I feel like, oh, like maybe the flowers, like maybe he's paying the bill, like is he pulling my chair out, like all these things that it's my list in my head. But yeah, after that, and I want to bring them something like something small on their date too.
Hmm. Absolutely, and this is one of the reasons why I like the Italian so much as an idea. Is there was a gesture that was about if you sort of order a wine and what they'll do is they would pour me the small amount of the wine first. I would taste it, make sure it's up to scratch. If it's good enough, I would accept it and say, "Yep, go ahead," and they'd then sort of share it. But the idea is that I'm sort of taking the lead on that one, or drinking the poison first in the case of potential assassinations. Um, and just basically, I'm approving the wine as being something that it is worthy of my date to drink.
Oh,
You know.
I feel like, see, that's a good like little pro tip, because I feel like that definitely like is such a special little moment.
Mm. Another pro tip for the guys: smell nice. Seriously, like actually take the time to buy some nice little, cologne, eau de toilette, whatever the local word is for the smelly stuff that you're going to want to have. You do not want to turn up smelling of like Lynx Africa or Axe Africa, as I think they call it in other places, because that basically smells like being a teenager, and all they're going to think is, okay, this guy smells like Lynx Africa. Their bedroom is probably covered in tissues. Um,
Right.
yeah, it's just get an adult scent on your body and smell nice. Um, you want to be well groomed, you want to be well showered, you want to make sure that you're not, because if you don't have to go overboard with it, but there is something about being able to smell nice, especially if the night ends and you're going for a hug and maybe a kiss.
Just
That's
let it
that's
linger.
because the olfactory senses are so heavily connected to memory. Sometimes you can remember something from the smell before you remember it based on hearing or vision. And so that's the thing that people are going to think of. So if you smell something awful, if you really have not put any effort in, and all they can smell is just bad body odor, that's going to be a bad impression. Might not get you a second date. So take the time to groom yourself. Be
I
clean.
I actually agree with that too. And actually, I wear like this thing that's called hair perfume. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's exactly what it sounds like. It's perfume for your hair. And so the idea is like when someone goes in for a hug, or like if you had, your head resting in their car seat, like in their passenger seat or on their pillow, whatever, like that scent lingers like there for a while and like makes them think of you. So I just
Yeah,
feel like that's like so cute.
that's really nice. Yeah, and some real nice smells, that can go with that. Like me, I'm a big fan of, say, lavender. Something like that kind of scent. If you can find something with that, then that's always a winner in my book. And different people have different scents, so um, it's not always to
Honestly,
say.
I think that's like a great topic for like first date too, is like to go over scents, because just for the same reasons, I mean, you can get someone, even if like you get them a candle and the scent they like that's just a little like touch to know about them, and keep your house like with a certain scent that they like whenever they come over, and like they're gonna like it there because they think it smells like more pleasant.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. So some people seem to sort of burn incense almost religiously. Some people have the nice scented candles. Um, I've tried all different things to make the place smell nice. At the moment, I'm using these little diffuser whatnots. It's very subtle, but it's there. Um, and so you can generally go a long way when it comes to those kind of scents. If somebody's got a real scent that they're not keen on, it's always worth knowing, so you don't sort of put that on. Like, say, for example, I don't know, somebody's not interested in vanilla. like, you know, just as an example. Um, and you've got a load of those vanilla scented reed diffusers at home, you can always switch them out for something else when you know that the other person's coming round. So
Hmm.
you don't, and quite often changing things up is always a good one as well. You know, have a different scent on the next time so it's not all the same thing. Keeps things interesting.
I think my last little like pro tip is gonna be like if you're like a talker, like if you ever had it like written on your report card, like talk successively in class, something like that. Like if you know you're a talker, to make it your goal, like in the first date specifically, to like be a listener. Because if you are a talker, it's like hard to fight back like every little thought you have. You just want to add in, but sometimes you just like have to like physically like hold your mouth shut and just listen to them talk, like tell their whole story and then like respond to it all. Because I mean, obviously like as the story goes on you kind of forget like your talking points, and so you kind of feel like more pressure to get them out. But yeah, I feel like if that's normally you, it's just to practice on like being a listener for the duration of the date.
That's a really good point. One good trick you can actually help with that is by learning some active listening skills, like based around customer service. I know obviously a date is not normally where you'd want to flex your customer service skills, but it is something that's quite handy because there's a difference between listening to what the person's saying. Um, Almost like checklisting the points, proving that you're actively listening by playing back what they've said as part of your response to it, and also the fact that, you know, having that sort of, you know, active listening and the customer service things, it can really help you be mindful of what you're doing. A good case in point is if a person's sort of bringing up, going back to the deal breakers, you know, you some people might be very short at that point and say, well, that's a deal breaker for me. But the whole idea of presenting to them, oh, here's, you know, why don't we continue the rest of the date? Why don't we do this? It involves a certain amount of that active listening, because a lot of people are too busy listening to what they're going to say next than they are to what the other person's actually saying, and they miss things. And
It's
that,
actually so funny that like you mentioned this, because I went to a relationship seminar actually in Germany, and they covered like active listening. And it's more so the situation of like, let's say you have one partner in the relationship, and you know they've been at home all day taking care of the house, taking care of the laundry, like they're cooking dinner, they're stirring stuff on the stove like when you get home. And the other
yeah,
person gets home, and of course they've been away from their partner all day, so the first thing they want to do is like talk to them about their day, like stuff that happened, like that's what happened at work today. But to the
yeah,
other person it's just like, you know, maybe it's something as simple of just like turn off the stove for a second, you know, like stop what you're doing, like take, you know, the 5 minutes to listen to their day, like respond to it, like be interested in what they're doing instead of just saying like, yeah, yeah, like I'm making dinner, like we'll talk, we talk about this at dinner. Like sometimes it's just like you don't want to stop the like positivity like coming out of them like when they get home, because if you're saying that you don't want to talk to them about right now, it has like a negative connotation, they might not be like as eager to share it with you.
mm, yeah, absolutely. Because I certainly don't want to yuck anyone's yum. If they're having a good day and they want to talk about it, I want them to tell me when they want to talk about it, because there's some, it's more genuine for them if they're told, can we wait until dinner, they're almost going to read it like it's a script.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they're in the moment, then it's coming from the heart, and it's really wonderful. It's a whole different way of talking, and it's, you can hear just by the way that they word things, really is a wonderful thing to hear. And so for me, I really like the idea of being able to properly listen to what they're saying, and you can hype with them, and shared hype is wonderful. You can be like, oh, that's wonderful, that's so cool, and what did you do next, and how did that go, and cool, are you going to do that one again, you know, and just be the cheerleader of the other person whilst they're having their moment.
Definitely. I mean, it's like you don't want to be like basically like killing their joy. Like you don't want to be the reason that they're just like not enthusiastic when they come home from work. Like you want to make sure that you're caring about the other person as well. And it's just like after that, like if you have something to say, like you can tell them about your days, like maybe say you're feeling stressed out or overwhelmed. Like don't just try to shut them out like based on your emotions at that second.
That's it. You know, it's you're never gonna get a second chance to make that first moment, and so having a redo is never going to be quite the easiest thing. So let them have their moment. If you're stressed out, you can always discuss it afterwards. You know, that is something that if the if the other person's got something negative that they want to say as well, then by all means listen to them as well. It's not just about the positives. You've got to be prepared for the negatives too. You know, oh yeah, my day was like this, this broke and this went wrong and this happened, because the fact that you're listening and not listening like a counselor, you know, you can always ask them, are we problem solving, or are we just listening, are we venting? um you know, and if it's just venting, don't try and change anything, just accept what the person's saying and listen to them, and feedback what they've said, so they know that you've listened and you've heard. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
ask questions, say, oh, is it like this then? You know, because little things just help them understand that you are there, you are hearing them. You're not trying to dismiss anything that they're saying. At the same time, you're not trying to play counselor and sound detached. You're integrated with that moment of them telling you. And I think that's a beautiful thing for a partner to do, whether it's positive or negative. I think it's
Exactly.
wonderful.
And what a good place to start is on the first date because I feel like that will just set the intentions of the entire relationship like right then and there because it can be a form of self-discipline if you are the talker, but it's also like letting that person know like, hey, I'm going to pay attention to you, like I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my best like to actively listen to what you have to say. I think it just starts the relationship off on the right foot.
Exactly. If you're like me, I'm kind of an introvert, but when you get me on a subject I'm into, I will drop a 3 hour lore bomb on you. I will be like, this is the backstory of like everything, and I can talk forever about the things that really get me hyped.
Oh,
Learning not to
yeah, definitely
is,
me too.
yeah, learning to not do that and to hold fire and make it a two-way conversation. It is a skill, and it's not a skill everybody possesses. But if you're mindful, if you're what's the word, like, you know, if you sort of can really sort of think and understand and um, you know, really look into yourself, then I think that's a wonderful way of being, and really helpful to not just the first date, but moving on to further dates after that. Sets the tone for the whole relationship adventure.
I totally agree with that. And I also just want to say thank you everyone for listening to this podcast. If you've been listening with us, comment down below. Thank you so much for listening to our first one. We are going to release more, and as well, I am going to be doing some streams of games up on my YouTube pretty shortly, soon, like maybe within the next 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for that, and we hope to have more podcast episodes out for you guys shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much indeed for listening. It's been wonderful.